What's going on, everybody? This the Wheel Fix It team. Woo! All right. So here's where we're at. We've got to do some, I guess you would call it reconstructive surgery to a certain extent. Let me show you what we're talking about. This is on a Mitsubishi Galant, by the way. Mitsubishi Galant with a 4-cylinder. Thank goodness I can get to this thing with removal of some of the components I'm about to show you. But a little history. Starter failed. The man took it somewhere and they put a starter on. It lasted for a little while, and then it's missing the teeth. It just, the bendix comes out, and it doesn't engage all the way. And this is typical of what happens if the problem's not addressed from the get-go. Was whenever the first starter messed up, it kind of rounded the teeth a little bit. It didn't eat them completely off, but it created a situation where whenever the teeth of the starter needed to lash or mesh with the teeth of the quote-unquote flywheel, which is an automatic, which is actually a flex plate, which is actually not a flex plate because this ring gear is mounted on the torque converter, FYI, on this particular model, but just stick with me. Let me show you what you can do that may be able to buy yourself a little bit of time, and maybe possibly even hold up and work for a while if this is done right. Let me flip the camera. This is going to be a quick video because basically this is just kind of like what to do. So I've got the front of the motor off I had to kind of do that anyhow to get the starter out. I could have got the starter out and snuggled it out of there, but there was a heat shield that had to come off, and it was just, I just moved it out. I needed to get in there anyhow. And over here you have the flex plate, flywheel, ring gear, whatever you want to call it. It's actually part of the torque converter, and I've already done a little filing on it, but it was real rounded. The teeth were actually kind of beat down just a little bit. And now if you've got half of those teeth or 2/3 of those teeth, and you file them down, it will work. It will. But the problem that you'd run into if you don't do that, it burrs the ends of the gear, and it makes it where the teeth don't mesh together or lash together, and then it skips over and it just goes green, makes a terrible loud noise. And if you do that enough, then you will wear all the teeth off, because every time the bendix kicks out and tries to grab, it's grinding a little bit of teeth and a little bit of teeth. So what I've done is I've found a file that kind of fits down in there, and it's not easy. This takes a little time, but it's well worth the effort. This is a file that I found here that works, that can get in there. It's not really a flat file. It's not a triangle file, because I didn't need a triangle file because I don't have one that's got that pitch or that spacing between the teeth. And I'm pretty much just going to go in here into that groove, and I'm going to kind of angle down a little bit, and I'm going to angle up a little bit. And then basically I want to get, what happened is it burred these teeth and flattened them out, and it's got the space messed up. And it makes for a roundy spot right here, it's my technical term for it, to where that actually can make the bendix just skip right over it, go green, and not line up and start turning. So that's what I'm going to do. And let me flip back over to this beautiful, I'm just joking when I say that, because I got grease on my lips. I got like grease mustache face. And I just wanted to just kind of throw that out there in case somebody's got some kind of issue with their flex plate, flywheel, ring gear, and they're like, oh man, what am I going to do? You can actually go in there and find. There's a tactic that people did back in the day, which they still do, I don't say back in the day, but whenever it came to racing motorcycles or racing cars with manual transmissions, you'd want to put an air shifter on your street bike so you can run it down the quarter-mile track and be the fastest, bestest, strongest. And you would not use the clutch. Professionals would have it all set up where they, whenever the rev limiter hits or the stutter box hits, it hits the air shifter at the same time, because the motor will fall on its face for a second as it catches itself, and then shift. Then, well, to ensure that those teeth line up, they'll actually do a thing called undercutting, and they'll take a grinder with a cutoff wheel, and they'll pull the motor apart, pull all the gears out of it, lay them on the bench, and they'll take and cut a slot that actually angles down a little bit so that it kind of makes things kind of cut and line right on in there. It's called undercutting gears. Well, we're not going to that extent, but we are going to do something similar by getting rid of the burrs and opening up the gap, and then we'll see what happens. So let me do this right quick and get it together and see if it cracks. Be right back. They just got to get these where it burrs the teeth. Oh, that's terribly not in focus. Where the teeth get burred, they'll flatten out right here. So I'm just getting the edges off and we'll see what happens. Okay, so now we're going to see how this works. Did what I did do what be working? We filed the teeth down and everything, and there was a couple of places on that flex plate, flywheel, ring gear, whatever you want to call it, because it's mounted on the torque converter. This Mitsubishi. I had to file a bunch. When I was turning the motor, I found a couple of teeth that were like, ugh. So I filed. So we're going to see what happens. Let's see if this thing will catch, and we're going to see how it sounds. So we're going to do it in real time. This is the actual first crank. Let's see what happens. All right. Woo. Well, it starts, but it's just not a whole lot I can do about that. The customer saw the flex plate, flywheel, ring gear, however you want to call this thing, but that was seen, and you know, he said just put a starter on it and try it. He didn't even ask me to do that. I went over beyond the thing to see if I could get it to file down, because it just, there's no way those teeth are going to catch. But that's the best we're going to get out of it. The car itself is really old. It's an old Mitsubishi. Parts are really hard to find for it, so I just have to let it go like that. But at least it does start. But there you go. So that kind of works, but best we could do. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate you tuning in. We'll Fix It team. Have a wonderful weekend coming up. Thursday right now as this is being shot. There it is. Back together. But, whew, boy. Okay. Thank you. We're out.